The beasts and creatures of the swamp, they love to create problems and then never solve them because there's so much money and pouring money into the symptoms. And that's why they came in. The American people want freedom. They want their liberties back. They want a strong, secure economy and a strong, secure border. And then they want the government to leave them the heck alone. And that's what they're going to get with President Trump and me. I'm honored to have his endorsement.
I believe that President Trump did more in 4 years than any president did in 8 years. And I'm just a big supporter. I've been with him since he came down the escalator. It's the type of leadership we need if we're going to save America. And so I'm 110% behind President Trump. I couldn't be more excited for this endorsement. And I'm going to win with God's help and everybody else. We're going to win on June 18th and help Trump win in November. And we'll make America great again.
As you've heard me say in the past, it is crucial that not only Trump get returned to the White House, but look, I was there at the beginning. If he doesn't have a Republican Senate and a Republican House, it's a totally different game. The Republican Senate allows him to get his nominees through. I mean, think about what the difference is. What just not only in the Trump world, but in Biden, we wouldn't be having some of these people doing the things that they do if Biden couldn't have gotten through all of his nominees. But because of those Georgia races, he did. Got them done. So it's not just about winning the Senate. Right now, if they pick up one seat, it's a tie. So, and I think that West Virginia seat, because Joe Manchin is not seeking re-election, Jim Justice, the current governor, is now the nominee. He's going to win. That gets Republican a 50-50 Senate, assuming that they don't lose any of the Republican seats. So that means Ted Cruz is what they call in cycle, Rick Scott's in cycle down in Florida. Those are the two big things that the Democrats think they have a shot at, and I don't. I mean, I think Cruz will be fine. Rick Scott ultimately fine. They're both up right now. They're both running good campaigns. They've both been battle tested. They know what they're doing. But then the Republicans need to build on that, because if Trump doesn't win, then the vice president has to cast every tie. And even if he does 50-50, that's a lot of tie votes to cast. And it ties your vice president up. So I want a big. And I also don't want one or two senators on every nominee holding up some of these cabinet members. If you have a 53-54 seat majority, that makes a big difference. And then on the policy side, that's why you need a House. So today we're going to talk to two candidates that are going to make a difference. Kari Lake is going to make a difference in the Senate. And right now, that seat would be a flip for Republicans. Kyrsten Sinema currently holds it. Ruben Gallego is the Democratic nominee. Sinema says she's not running anymore. So it's going to be mano y mano. Ruben Gallego, the Democrat, liberal, progressive, open borders Democrat, versus Kari Lake. We're going to talk to Kari Lake in just a minute. Then we're going to talk to John McGuire. He's running in Virginia's 5th District. I'm going to explain why that's an important seat in just a little bit. Before we get to the conversation with Kari Lake, though, I want to just tell you, I keep talking about the policies of the Democrats. The Democrats, when they got control, what did they do? Spend more money, increase government. And this is no exception. Last year, they added billions of dollars to hire more IRS agents. I'm talking tens of thousands more IRS agents. So what did they do? They immediately sent out 5 million pay up letters to those people who have a debt that they owe the IRS or haven't filed a tax return or balance. I mean, this is it, folks. They're going out there and they're going to get everything. And trust me, when an IRS agent knocks on your door, it's not to sell you cookies or to see how your day's going. These guys are coming in and they're going to upend your life. Business, personal, it doesn't matter. Don't waive your rights if you get one of these letters or if the IRS comes a calling. Do not speak to them on your own. You need representation. And I'm telling you, the people at Tax Network USA know what they're doing. They have your best interest at heart. So whether you're talking about $1,000 you owe them, $10,000, $1 million or more, you want to talk to the folks at Tax Network USA. These are the folks who have recovered billions of dollars for their clients. So whether you owe $10,000 or $1 million, go talk to the folks at Tax Network. Go to tnusa.com/Sean Spicer, tnusa.com/Sean Spicer, or call 1-800-245-6000. Tell them I sent you. But do not talk to the IRS unless you've talked to the folks at Tax Network USA. All right. Without further ado, I want to get into one of the seats in the Senate that can make a big difference. Kari Lake running for that seat. That would be a big Republican pickup in Arizona. As you know, she ran for governor last time, came up short. She is now the top candidate, in my opinion, that could help make sure that we maintain a Republican majority in this new Senate and give Donald Trump the votes he needs to do it. So without further ado, Kari Lake. Kari, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's good to be with you again, Sean.
All right. So walk me through, just for those of us who aren't paying attention to Arizona every day, there's a couple other things going on in the political world. What's the state of play right now? Because I know Kyrsten Sinema was the current incumbent senator. She left the Democratic Party and then decided she wasn't going to run at all. So what's the state of play there in Arizona?
Well, we have an open Senate seat. We've got a seat that's up for grabs, and we have the population of Arizona is fed up with the direction our country's going. We've got a Joe Biden mini-me. He's voted with Joe Biden 100% of the time. He's 40 years younger, who wants to take a seat in the U.S. Senate and continue to bring these dead-end destructive policies, not only to the U.S. Senate, but to Arizona. And so we have to stop him. And we have a great opportunity. Kyrsten Sinema, you mentioned, is not running. She looked at the math and there was no path to victory for her. And so now it is an America First, common sense Republican in me versus Ruben Gallego, who is as radical as they come. I mean, he's truly a Marxist, and you look at his voting record, open borders, calls the border wall dumb and stupid, would never, ever, ever fund it. He has voted in support of sanctuary cities and states. He's voted to give illegal immigrants, all of them pouring across the border, asylum and voting rights. He has actually marched and defund the police rallies, has voted for legislation that would up our gas another $1 a gallon and would allow states to ban gas-powered vehicles. I mean, these are just crazy, crazy policies that the American people, and I can tell you the Arizona people, are not for. He wants to control what kind of appliances we buy. The American people want freedom. They want their liberties back. They want a strong, secure economy and a strong, secure border. And then they want the government to leave them the heck alone. And that's what they're going to get with President Trump and me. I'm honored to have his endorsement. And the movement we had when I ran for governor has only grown stronger across Arizona. The polls look great. It's still tight. We're neck and neck right now because he's got tons of money coming in from Soros and every other imaginable left-leaning billionaire out there. And so we're working to up our numbers in the poll. We know President Trump is up about 8 points here. And we believe we're going to take victory along with President Trump in Arizona.
All right, so let's break down some of what you just said. I've been in politics too long. This is my 30th year doing that. What you just described to me in Ruben Gallego is, if I could paint the perfect person to run against, what you just described would be that person, right? I mean, they're leftist, they support an open border, et cetera, et cetera. Why is it the money? Like, why would this, and I'm being serious about this. Like, I honestly think that to me, you have this conversation, I go, this is a no-brainer, right?
Yep.
Why? What is it? Is it the money that keeps him alive? Is he trying to be Ruben Gallego in Arizona versus the Ruben Gallego that votes in DC? Why is this even close if that's who he is?
Well, I think it's close because people don't know who he is. When they vote, they go, okay, this unknown Democrat versus Kari Lake.
Okay.
And by the way, he's topping off at 46. There's no way I'm just not seeing polling where he's able to get any more than 46. And so they look at him as a Democrat that's undefined, and they maybe think of a kind of a more moderate Democrat. And that's what he's going to try to lay himself out and play himself as. But when you look at his record, you realize he's nowhere near that when you see he's voted with Biden 100% of the time, the squad 95% of the time. So
is this?
So we have to define him. And right now he's kind of undefined. So as we start defining him, which we just put down $10 million in ads. As we start defining him, we know that his numbers are going to go down because people are going to go, oh, wait a minute. This isn't Kyrsten Sinema style Democrat. This is more radical than Elizabeth Warren and AOC combined. That's truly what we're dealing with here. So I'm looking forward to watching his poll numbers drop as people get to know him. He is a House member overseeing the downtown Phoenix district with the fastest growing homeless population. Crime is soaring. Inflation is hitting his district the hardest anywhere. And, when people find out who he really is, what he votes for and what he supports, they're going to run in the other direction.
Okay, so that answers a lot of what I was getting at. So do you think that there's two issues here from what I'm hearing you say? One is, outside of maybe his congressional district, people don't know who he is. So they're like, oh, he's a
generic Democrat.
Democrat, and you need to define him more. So let me just break this down campaign style. Is it going to be a case where he gets all this outside money that tries to create an image of him that's not true? And secondly, and I know this is a silly question to ask any politician, but are you going to have the resources that you need to define him?
Well, they have unlimited resources from God knows where and God knows who. I mean, Act Blue, you could argue, is the world's biggest money laundering operation. That's my opinion, and a lot of people share that opinion. The money comes from out of nowhere for the Democrats. So we're never, I think it's going to be hard to compete with them because I don't know where their money is coming from, but we're doing quite well. I mean, we're working hard to raise money. We are either the number one or number two when it comes to small donors. And I'm proud of that. That means we have the people with us. There is power when you have the people with you. Look at President Trump. We have a similar movement here in Arizona. So I'm really proud of that. I don't believe it's going to be hard dollars that wins this. I believe it's going to be policies and ideas. And we have the common sense approach to solve the problems. Let's face it. Who got us into the problems that we're into? Who opened the border up? It was the Democrats. It was Joe Biden with the support of Ruben Gallego. Who crashed the economy? It was the Democrats. It was Joe Biden and his terrible policies when it comes to our energy sector and many other bad decisions he's made when it comes to just spending money like drunken sailors. And he had the backup of Ruben Gallego, his number one cheerleader. So, I think it's going to be policies that win the day. Do you want sky high inflation? Do you want, a Taco Bell bill when you take your family out, that's $100? Do you want to worry about if you can fill the car with gas and pay your electric bills? Do you want to worry about your, 20-year-old son being sent off to a foreign war that should have never started? And do you want the border, which is just a couple hours south of me, to be overrun with people here illegally who are coming in, driving down our wages because they're taking jobs from American citizens and driving up our housing costs because they're taking housing that we frankly don't have enough of? Those are real simple questions.
Yeah.
And
so I got to believe, I talk about immigration all the time. In fact, I'm so disappointed in Washington Republicans that they haven't made a bigger issue of the border and the threat that we face in this country because of an open border policy that Biden has put forward. You guys are on the front line. Like, I can't even imagine what it's like to live in Texas or Arizona where you see it. That being said, Gallego's policies on the border, he is responsible. Like, he is allowing this to happen. How much of an issue is that in your campaign? And is this a partisan issue or is it a bipartisan issue where, regardless of your party background, you believe that the border is a problem in Arizona? Or do I just don't understand it, that in Arizona it's 50-50? I don't know. Walk me through that issue in terms of what Arizonans think.
Everyone is deeply concerned about the border. The only people who are for the open border are the people benefiting from it, people who are involved in human smuggling, people who are involved in these NGOs that are smuggling people up, people who are making money off the drug trade, and politicians like Ruben Gallego, who makes money off of keeping the border open. Sean, you've been in politics, you said 30 some years. First of all, I can't believe it. You must have started when you were 10.
Yeah, well, yes.
But the Democrats, and frankly, sadly, a few Republicans, that, the beasts and creatures of the swamp, they love to create problems and then never solve them because there's so much money and pouring money into the symptoms. And that's why they came in. President Trump was fixing all these problems. He had secured the border. We had energy independence on our way to energy dominance when it comes to our energy industry. He was creating world peace. We didn't need to have the military industrial complex bleeding us dry of our resources and treasure and our sons and daughters as well. And so he had solved all these problems. And that's a big problem for politicians, because the lobbyists and the people who throw and pour money into politics, they want the problems. They want the tax money going into whatever their pet project is. And that's why they came in on day one, hour one, second one, opened up the border again, created an energy crisis. And it is a huge problem in Arizona, and they know they're losing this argument. And that's why Ruben Gallego is now in a panic. He's back on his heels, trying to now vote in a way that might make him look like he's going to get a little tougher on the issue. But it's not going to work, because
this is a guy, by the way, who has tweeted and put out statements that support allowing illegals to vote.
Oh, 100%. He's voted for that. He's voted to allow people coming illegally voting rights and asylum for all of them. He has threatened, he's plays Mr. Tough Guy on Twitter, by the way. He's threatened ICE agents with physical violence if they do their job in deporting people who are here illegally. And, he threatened people in the military. I do respect that he served in the military, but he threatened a Marine with the most profane tweet against the man, because the Marine said during the whole COVID thing, I want to make a decision on whether I get the vaccine on my own. I don't want the military to force it. I want more information. And he threatened him with an expletive fueled tweet, threatening this man who is a Marine serving our country. He wanted people who didn't get vaccinated, who chose not to get vaccinated, to pay 50% more for their health insurance premium rate than people who were vaccinated. He's completely out of touch. And, the money that we need is the money we're going to need is to define who he is. And once he's totally defined, he's going to lose miserably in this next election.
You mentioned that Trump is running 8 points. You think he'll end up 8 points victor? I think
it's going to be bigger than that. That's what.
Okay, so tell me why. What is fueling that? Is that just Joe Biden? Is that immigration? Is it a combination of several things?
It's all of that. It's the fact that our government is now weaponized against him, and people are not okay with that. And frankly, Sean, I don't think there's any politician in the country who has a greater connection to the people of their state than I do. And I will say that I'm proud of that, and I'm humbled and honored that I have that relationship. I covered this state for 27 years as the number one news person in the state. And so I've been in everyone's homes, and now I'm actually going to their homes, and I have a great relationship with them. Wherever we go, we're drawing massive crowds. The movement has grown. And so I get a chance to talk to people, and they're telling me, we want Trump back. We've got to get Trump back. I got to tell you a real quick story. I was down in Nogales. It's about 99% Hispanic population right there on the border. Everybody that was in the group, about 200 people, were independents or Democrats. And they all said, we've got to get Trump back, and we're voting for you because we can't afford gas. We're nervous about the people who are being let out onto the streets. They're not coming here from Mexico. They're coming here from places in Africa and Asia. They don't know the language. They don't have a place to go. And they're just 200 of them are being dropped onto the streets of this small town. And it's complete chaos on the streets of Nogales, Arizona. They're ready to secure the border, get the economy back. And, I haven't even touched on the issues relating to our children with the garbage they're being taught in school. We need a world-class education for our kids. And in Arizona, we have education freedom. Our Arizona tax dollars go to fund the student, not the school. And when I get to the U.S. Senate, I'm going to work tirelessly to make sure that the federal education tax dollars go also to the student, not a failing school. The fastest way to give our students the greatest education is to make these schools compete for the students and do a better job at educating our kids.
Well, I'll tell you, I'd go a step further. I'd say that after what I've seen on college campuses, we shouldn't be sending any federal dollars to them, maybe to their students,
universities,
but to the universities. I got a couple more things for you that I want to. What have you mentioned your gubernatorial run? As you mentioned, you're not a politician. You're an outsider.
Yep.
Since your first race, what have you learned? What is it as a candidate that you've learned or might be doing different, if anything?
Well, I'm taking my work ethic, incredible work ethic that I got when I grew up in the Midwest, and I'm working even harder on the campaign trail, getting our ideas out there.
Yeah, but you worked hard, Kari. I saw you when you ran for governor. You worked hard the first time. What is it that you learned? I mean, look, I get it. It's a shock to the system to see how this stuff works. There was a video of you earlier, some of the swamp stuff, people trying to keep you out of the race. I think that's got to be for somebody who genuinely got into this because you thought you could make your state better. What have you learned now and said, okay, I'm going to tweak this because you worked your tail off the first time. Yeah. So what is it this time that you go, okay, knowing what I know now, I want to do a little something different?
Well, I've learned the swamp is even slimier and deeper than I thought. When they're trying to bribe you out of running for office, and all of the polling shows that you are not only the best Republican to win the Senate seat, but the only Republican who can win the Senate seat, that's pretty alarming. But, we just keep moving forward and keep a positive attitude. And I've learned that we have to keep our eye very close on, even closer on how these elections are being run, and let people know that they have to get involved in an even bigger way. I will never say that the people of Arizona didn't do enough. Our movement, the people did everything right, but a lot of them wanted to show up on election day. I don't blame them. I like voting on election day. We should have the right to do that. And one of the things I learned is how they sabotaged that. And I think we were very effective in putting out how they did it. And now it's going to be harder for them to run elections that way. But nonetheless, we have to work even harder, and we have to get the people who are with us to go out and find friends and relatives and encourage them to vote, whether it's early, by mail, at an early voting center, or on election day. We can't allow any of our friends to sit home. We're watching, the things that are different is we're watching more and more people register Republican. The Republicans are outnumbering the Democrats by large margins here in Arizona. But we have to also do a good job at going and talking to our Democrat friends and saying, hey, listen, is this working out for you? Is the economy working for you? Because it's not working for us. Are you okay with the border being open and watching all these people pour in and take our housing and jobs and footing the bill for all of that? What do you think about the way our kids are being educated? We need to start talking to Americans. Look, I believe as we grow the Republican Party, Sean, that we could solve all these problems alone, but I don't want to do it that way. I want to see the American people come together, independents and Democrats come together, solve these problems, and then usher America into our best days ahead. And I truly believe our best days are ahead of us. Even as dark as it feels right now, we have some really good days coming ahead of us. I also don't believe the polling that shows things are neck and neck, because I'm out in the field with the people, and the people are overwhelmingly for making America great again and bringing forth America First policies.
I hope so. I said earlier in the show this week, that Political story, that Dems are freaked out. And I think you're absolutely right, because the quote that captured it, and you just echoed this, is that when people are given a choice between the policies of 4 years of President Trump and the 3.5 years of Biden so far, they lose every day. And the quote, the Dem operative, and twice on Sunday. Let me ask you this. The NRSC, the National Republican Senatorial Committee, came out with a strategy because all they care about is getting to 51. And they said that Montana, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Ohio are their top 4 targeted seats. Yep. I didn't hear Arizona. And to your point, I think President Trump's going to win Arizona big. That carries you over the top every day and twice on Sunday, to quote the Democrat. Are you going to do you feel like you're getting the support out of D.C.? They tried to bribe you. We heard about that earlier this cycle. Are you getting the resources that you need to win this race?
We can always use more. So I'm not going to say we're doing everything. But I want to thank Chairman Senator Steve Daines. He's been very supportive. I have the NRSC's support. They're helping us with a $10 million ad buy. And so I'm really honored to have their support. We'll take more support. Like I said, I want the American people behind this, and not just the Arizona people. This race is going to affect all of America. We've got to have the majority. I want more than a 51 seat majority. Don't you? Don't you want to know that we have some pad?
I don't want to have every nomination of President Trump come up to whether Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, and hold it hostage. And again, I'm not blaming them. They got to support their state. But I want Kari Lake. I want Sheehy in Montana. I want Hovind in Wisconsin. I want everybody. I want a 60-seat majority.
I do too. And I'm optimistic we can get there because the American people have had enough. They're not going to sit home. People who've never voted before are registering to vote. I'm seeing it on the ground. I met a 52-year-old woman the other day. She was embarrassed to say she had never voted. I said, we can solve that problem right now. We'll get you registered. She's outspoken. She wants her children to have a future. That's what it's about, Sean. I've had a great life. I'm looking out for my kids and this next generation. They've been through a lot. I know a lot of people like to, bash on this young generation. Think of what they've been through, K through 12, and then in the higher education, the indoctrination, the stuff they've had pushed on them, the anti-American history that they've had to learn, the lack of skills they're learning in school. They've really been psychologically abused with this indoctrination they've been through. And for them to even come out standing at the end of it is amazing. And more of them are coming our direction saying, we recognize that things were better under President Trump. We want a future, if we work hard, that we can have access to the American dream. And I'm bound and determined as a mother to make sure that we set up America and get things back on track so that they have a future.
I couldn't agree. I think these kids, I'm worried about the next generation, but I think with the leadership that you're proposing, that's what we need. The last thing I want to ask you is you've got two Johns running for to lead the Senate conference. John Thune, John Cornyn, Rick Scott, a businessman, jumped in the race. Are you picking a horse in that race?
Do you think I'm crazy?
Look, after some of what you've been through, I could see it. I get why you're not, or I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I'll tell you why I'm not. The election I'm looking at is the one coming up in November. Okay. And that's the God honest truth. There's a lot that's going to happen between now and November. And, I think they're going to lay out, all of them will lay out what they see, how they see their leadership style, what they see, the role of the Senate and how we can maybe include more of ideas. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they lay out how they want to lead. But I'm truly, my mind is not there. My mind is right here in the here and now every day. How can we bring more voters our way? How can we have the best policy to turn this nightmare scenario that Joe Biden and Ruben Gallego have created around? And how can we get Arizona and America back on track? When we do that, I think that'll be an easy vote. We'll figure it out. But I first want to be focused on this.
Okay, smart answer. I get it, but I
Come
had
on,
to ask. There's a shot. Who knows? Anyway, Kari Lake, I wish you the best on the campaign trail. Stay safe and make sure you check back in with us because I think you're right that as people tune into this race, you're going to see this Arizona race get front and center on the radar as a huge pickup for the Republicans. And I think you're right about President Trump because you guys in Arizona are on the front line. So thank you for joining us. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Sean. Have a great day.
You do. All right. That gave me a lot of hope. I feel better talking to Kari about what we're facing. All right. I want to bring in a second John McGuire. He's running. He's a former Navy SEAL, current state senator in Virginia. He's running out in the 5th district. I want to explain why this matters in a second. John McGuire is running against an incumbent. Normally, I'd say, wow, what are you doing? President Trump just endorsed him over Congressman Bob Good, who is the chair of the Freedom Caucus. This was a big deal. Bob Good has been all over the map when it comes to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump said, no mas. I'm not going to support you because you've been all over the map supporting me. I'm going to support John McGuire, a Navy SEAL, trusted guy, loyal, who's in the state Senate right now in Virginia and has had Trump's back since the beginning. Before I get into it with John McGuire, I want to tell you, I've been telling you all week long, frankly, about the weather, what's been going on here in Virginia, speaking of Virginia. And we don't know when we're going to lose power. We've had a tornado warning and storms every single day. It's crazy. And I always think about we're going to lose power. And I've lost it before in the past. But because I have a Patriot Power Generator 2000X, I know I'm okay. My Patriot Power Generator 2000X will power everything in my house, my fridge, my tablets, my kids' stuff that they need, the phones, because God forbid they're without their phone for an hour. But it's portable. I can help out a friend or a family member if I need it. I can bring it in my house because the cool thing about the Patriot Power Generator 2000X is it runs off of solar power and the solar panels come with it for free. You do not need to run out to the gas station and hope that it's open and fill up the tank and keep filling it up and keep filling it up and keep filling it up. And make sure that you keep it outside because of the fumes. No fumes, no noise. You can bring the Patriot Power generator inside and it runs everything for hours. Do not get behind the curve. Be ready. Whether it's a power outage because of a natural disaster or a strike on the power grid, do not wait and regret not having one of these. Go to 4patriots.com/Spicer and get your Patriot Power Generator 2000X and the free solar panels that come with it. Trust me, you will not regret this decision. 4patriots.com/Spicer. All right. Without further ado, John McGuire, Senator, Navy SEAL, Patriot. John McGuire, thanks for joining us. You want to talk about a good week. Let's just start with this. How big of a deal was it to get that Trump endorsement for you?
What does Trump say? Huge with a Y, huge?
Huge.
Yeah, it was big. I tell you, my phone blew up, 550 unanswered text messages trying to keep up with the text. Couldn't keep my voicemail empty. I couldn't believe it. And a young person came up to me and said, "You're trending on Twitter." I still
not just, but here was the thing, John. You weren't trending on Twitter for like 10 minutes. I checked back at the end of the day. You were still trending. I mean, so Bob Good is the chairman of the Freedom Caucus. He's not a lightweight when it comes to, I think conservative issues, but this was a big deal. Explain, let's just take a step back for a second. Why did you get in the race and challenge an incumbent?
Well, I probably would have never run against Bob Good. It's a 77, 80% Trump district, and it'd be foolish to run against a Trump candidate in a Trump district. But he was not who he says he is. I'm a state senator, and while I was campaigning for state senate, almost every day someone would come up to me and say, "John, please run against this guy. I know you're running for state senate, but you're the only one that can beat him." And I said, "No, I'm running for state senate." But I started to find out that he was not who he was. I started to hear things from grandmothers, college students, pastors, that he was mean to them publicly. And an example would be my wife is my favorite Hokie. We're at a Virginia Tech football game, and a Liberty University student came up to me and my wife and said, when Bob won his last race, he called this student up personally and said he was a disgrace and embarrassment to the Republican Party because he didn't support Bob. And my thing is, we've got Chinese chemical warfare. We've got this fentanyl coming across the southern border. More people overdose every year because of this poisoning, this fentanyl, than died in the Vietnam War. We've got 10 million illegal immigrants. We've got CCP safe houses in every major city. How do you have time to call somebody's son or grandson and tell them a disgrace or embarrassment to the Republican Party?
Just to be clear, this student who goes to Liberty University says that Bob Good, the current congressman, personally called them and was upset with him because he had that student hadn't supported Bob Good.
It's unbelievable. He has major lack of judgment. I'll give you another one. He keeps working against Trump. Recently he endorsed 3 candidates against 3 candidates that Trump endorsed. And all 3 of Trump's candidates won, of course. But he keeps saying he was saying, I guess now we know what the deal is, but he keeps saying he's a Trump candidate, but he keeps working against Trump. And there's a woman named Ramona Christian. She's a Buckingham County GOP chair. She is all about Trump. She's on the Trump volunteer team. She coordinates all the Trump volunteers in Virginia. He tried to have her taken out a couple of months ago, but the MAGA movement showed up for her and she won. He keeps working against him. But here's the thing. He told us he begged Trump for an endorsement in 2022. And when the chips are down, you know who's got your back. When he got indicted for the recent trial a year and a half ago, whatever it was, he endorsed DeSantis less than a year after Trump endorsed him and went around and said Trump did not have the leadership and said he was not pro-life, not pro-gun, not conservative, said he's the only man on earth to lose to Biden. And then he said, I can't just sit by and regret that we nominated Trump. He was just trashing him. So the funny thing is, when DeSantis drops out of the race, the first thing he does is endorses Trump and pretends like he's a Trump guy. So I'm going to abbreviate the CNN interview.
Highly edited video provided by a campaign operative for my
So you didn't say
opponent,
those
so
things that you're on camera saying? You're on camera.
you take sentences and you take part of the sentence out, and you get a different conclusion from that sentence or different inference from that sentence.
I want everyone who's watching to see what it was that you said, and because it is edited. There's moments where it says Congressman Bob Good says this,
There's
feels
not
this.
been
But let
charged-
me just
there's
play a
not been
moment of
charged
that
in
so
the
everyone
video.
can
It is
see
an edited video.
what's actually on camera.
I decided to endorse DeSantis in May because I thought, you know what, I can't sit by and watch and then regret that we nominated Trump.
You are on camera saying those things, Congressman.
Dude, I love this. I only said it privately. I didn't mean for you guys to actually see what I was saying behind his back.
Oh, I know. It's great. You can't make it up. And she said, did you just tell my audience that you say one thing in public and one thing in private? I think all Americans hate politicians that talk out of both sides of their mouth. So he's not who he says he is. He's fake. Marjorie Taylor Greene calls him fake MAGA, never Trumper, traitor. And so we're going to win bigly on June 18th.
So the funny thing is, Trump, when you woke up and saw this truth get put out, this is President Trump on Truth Social. Bob Good is bad for Virginia and bad for the USA. I mean, the irony, of course, Bob Good is bad, isn't bad. He turned his back on our incredible movement and was constantly attacking and fighting me until recently when he gave me a big, warm and loving, in quotes, endorsement. But really, it was too late. The damage had been done. I think, obviously, the Trump team saw what you see. Did you know this was coming, or was this completely a surprise to you?
It was a surprise to me, but let me tell you how it happened. I got a phone call from a young woman, and she says, is this Senator John McGuire? I said, yes, ma'am. She says, hold on 1 minute. I'm going to put you through to President Trump. So I was like, oh. And so we had a really long conversation. He goes, well, listen, I cannot tell you how many people across the country asked me to endorse you. And hold on, wait about 5 seconds. It's about to go live. And he hit the button on Truth Social while we were on the phone. And so then I'm like, what do? You're shell shocked, and it's amazing. I believe that President Trump did more in 4 years than any president did in 8 years, and I'm just a big supporter. I've been with him since he came down the escalator. In one of my elections, a Republican said, I better not put a Trump flag on my pickup truck or I'll lose. So I put 2 Trump flags on my pickup truck. And I had the second biggest win in Virginia. So several hours go by, my phone's blowing up. Like 4 or 5 hours later, I just get a random phone call. It's President Trump. He called me back. Hey, John, I just want to see how your day's going. And it's just like you and me, Sean. It was just like you and me talking. He's a down-to-earth person.
Yeah.
And you can talk to him about anything. And I'm just blown away. And he says, we've got to get you in there. I need a team that I can trust. And we trust you, John. And so that says a lot.
So let me ask you this. Who are the people that, Bob Good in Congress it's amazing to me. I handled incumbent retention, which just means that you look after the people that are currently elected for the National Republican Congressional Committee back in 2000. And it was sort of like incumbents took care of each other. You may not like some of your colleagues, but you didn't go out publicly against them. I've never seen a group of members go after a current sitting member the way that so many current colleagues of Bob Good's go after him. It's amazing the number of them. And I watched the people prior to President Trump who have endorsed you. It was amazing to me to watch these people, colleagues of his, come after him.
Well, the problem is, in the military, if we don't work as a team, we don't come home to our family. And the military, we're about the we team. I think Bob's about the me team. He's all about Bob. And what I mean is, he calls everybody a rhino. And I think his idea of that means if you don't agree with him, you're the enemy or you're a rhino. And one member of Congress said that, oh, John, you're going to get a lot of endorsements. And I said, why is that? He said, well, up here in Congress, Bob thinks everyone is his lapdog. And if you don't roll over or sit, he wants to publicly embarrass you. But he calls everybody a rhino. But here's my thing. If you are on the Republican team and you partner with the Democrat team, Nancy Pelosi, to take out the Republican team, then who is the rhino? I would never do that in a million years. I know we might be frustrated. Things aren't moving in the direction we want. But if a Navy SEAL turned his gun and started shooting other Navy SEALs, we would call that a traitor. And he could never be trusted again. Trust is the most important thing. And And I think Trump knows that, especially after his first term, when he had a handful of Republicans just rolling marbles under his feet, trying to hamper his America First agenda. And I think that's why Trump has endorsed me, is he knows loyalty is so important.
I totally agree with you. And that's the thing, is that he gets it now. The thing that was funny is, to your point, Bob Good goes out there and says, now I'm with President Trump that DeSantis has dropped out. Talk to me about the Bob Good reaction, though. What did he do and say once Trump endorsed you?
Well, I got to tell you, he sent out a message, and I've been so busy trying to catch up with all the messages and continue campaigning. But the way folks interpreted that message is that he basically showed us who he really was. And I think the great thing about this campaign is we are exposing him for what Marjorie Taylor Greene said: fake MAGA, never Trump or traitor. So I believe in his statement, he implied that President Trump is a rhino. So again, if you don't support Bob, you're a rhino. He's a team of one. And I believe his legacy in Congress is going to be he shrunk the party. Because of the decisions that he made, we're down to a one-vote majority in Congress. And regardless of whichever speaker you support, the Democrats are getting more of their agenda today than they did a year ago. So I think that his philosophy is divide and subtract, but I think the philosophy needs to be more like President Trump. President Trump is about addition and multiplication. If we're going to win, we need to grow the party. He had a rally the other day in the Bronx, and that's called growing the party, reaching new voters. And that's the type of leadership we need if we're going to save America. And so I'm 110% behind President Trump. I couldn't be more excited for this endorsement. And I'm going to win with God's help and everybody else. We're going to win on June 18th and help Trump win in November, and we'll make America great again.
You know what was the real tell for me? Chris Cillizza, who's formerly with the Washington Post and CNN, i.e. on the Dem side, he tweeted out, "Poor good for Congress." He attacks real Donald Trump for endorsing John McGuire for VAU and says, quote, "I have never been the choice of the political power brokers in Washington." Then releases, this is still Chris Cillizza, then releases a list of DC politicians that endorsed him. Sad. Bob Good attacked President Trump, as you point out, because he didn't get the endorsement, claiming somehow in that endorsement that Trump is the establishment, and then releases all of the DC people that are endorsing him.
Oh, it's amazing. You know, you're talking about Chris LaCivita, and the guy.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Chris LaCivita. I apologize.
Yeah, no worries.
To both, by the way, to LaCivita, not to Chris Cillizza.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so Chris LaCivita, he's a Marine. He's a great strategist, and he's got an art with words. That's great messaging. And, you know, I watch Bob Good's behavior, and he behaves like a Democrat. He's projecting. He'll call people a liar like a machine gun, and he knows how to play the victim, just like the Democrats. I believe he thinks the end justify the means. And so you could see in his response, he was trying to play the victim when he's the one that backstabbed Trump.
Yeah.
And so I don't think the people are falling for it. He put this President Trump endorsement on his website since 2022. And even when he endorsed DeSantis and he was trashing Trump, he never took it down. And people were complaining for about a year. And so apparently some news outlets yesterday caught word to it. And so he took it down yesterday and replaced it with somebody else finally.
Unbelievable. John McGuire, where can people go to follow you in your race?
Sure. I've got a website. It's McGuireVA.com. And that's Victor Alpha for Virginia. So MCGUIREVA.com.
All right. We need another Navy guy on the Hill as well. So this is always good. Beyond your Trump endorsement, it's always good to have more Navy folks up on Capitol Hill. Congratulations on the Trump endorsement. We're going to keep an eye on this primary. Best of luck out there on the trail.
Thank you, Sean, for all you do. I appreciate you.
You bet. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed these two amazing conversations. Continue to subscribe and share the show on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, iThis, iThat. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.